Hello everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 16 and compare it against the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra and see which particular phone is the better one for you. Now, the thing I would definitely tell you when it comes down to both these devices, I think both these phones look amazing. I think they're great, and I generally don't have that much to hate on between both. I think the Galaxy S23 Ultra is one of those devices that's probably the one that is a little bit more of a flagship when it kind of comes down to it. I think it's quite clear. The S23 Ultra was a very, very expensive type of phone when it first came out, but right now it's probably around the same price as something like an iPhone 16. So I think that might be one thing to kind of keep in mind here with the iPhone 16 in the brand new market. This is an $830 phone, and this phone is not as much of a flagship as the S23 Ultra, but it's still readily available. You can buy it in the brand new market and kind of go from there. So let's go and see how they both compare. If you want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can also support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular phones, the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, which came out early last year, is basically giving you a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display. Now, it's a 1440p panel, and I definitely do think if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, this thing is a fairly good-looking display for the most part. I mean, it's a really good-looking display. This is easily one of my favorite type of phone panels out there, and I do think that's a very nice thing going on for this type of phone. It's 1750 nits of brightness. So I think that's one thing to kind of keep in mind here. It's not the biggest display of all time, but it's a very, very big, large display. And I do think it's a bigger display overall than the iPhone 16. It's a very nice display too. With something like the iPhone 16, on the other hand, this phone is giving you a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So this panel itself, there's a couple of things. One, it's a smaller screen, so keep that in mind. It's also 2000 nits of brightness. So it's not as bright as something like a Samsung Galaxy S20. So it's brighter than the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, although you're not getting that high refresh rate. So the lack of a higher refresh rate is kind of a bummer. And I think that in and of itself is kind of an issue, but I don't even think that's the biggest deal of all time, but that is one thing you're going to experience. It's a smaller display, no high refresh rate, but it's a brighter panel. So it's kind of a funny thing kind of going on there. But I think the Galaxy S23 Ultra is probably the one that probably looks better here for sure without even any question. Flat sides on the S23 Ultra, a little bit of a curved side kind of thing going on for it, but it's kind of flat. It's kind of hard to describe. On the bottom of the S23 Ultra and the iPhone 16, you're getting USB Type-C ports, which is something that's really nice to have. I love having USB-C, and you're basically going to be getting that type of capability on these types of phones as well. On the back side, you're getting frosted glass backs on both. So this is something that's really nice as well. Having frosted glass backs is a really, really nice thing. You're getting a dual camera setup on the back of the iPhone 16, kind of this quadruple camera setup on the S23 Ultra. But the cool thing about the S23 Ultra on the outside, one, you're getting reverse wireless charging. Still one of my coolest features, one of my favorite features going on with the type of phone. I love having it. And two, you're also getting that S Pen. So having that stylus built in inside of your Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, it's a really, really nice thing to have. Like I said before, I'm a massive fan of having that type of capability. If you're going to go through and get one of these types of phones, I love having it without a doubt. The S Pen is really cool, and you're basically getting that on this type of phone. Now, on top of that, another very big thing going on for this type of phone too is the fact that the Galaxy S23 Ultra is giving you a price tag of $645, where the iPhone 16 is basically costing $830. So once again, when it kind of comes down to it, if you're going to go through and pick up a device, I think it's really, really nice to have a phone like the Galaxy S23 Ultra that's basically cheaper than the iPhone 16, but it is such a massive flagship that it's not even funny. And I think that's a really nice thing going on for the S23 Ultra when it kind of comes down to it. From a camera side, the S23 Ultra is giving you this, like I said, that kind of quadruple camera setup. It's a wide telephoto, periscope telephoto ultra-wide camera. The iPhone 16 is giving you a wide ultra-wide lens. So a little bit of a difference there, as you can probably imagine. You're getting 4K 60 on the front and the back of both, but the Galaxy S23 Ultra does give you 8K capability on the back. And I think it's quite clear when it comes down to the camera quality between both. Definitely a camera like the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is probably going to be giving you the overall better experience when it comes down to it than the iPhone 16. And I think that in and of itself, again, is another really nice thing going on for this type of phone. I think with something like the iPhone 16, this is a very, very good type of camera, and it gets the job done for the most part. I don't really have that much to complain about here with that type of lens, right? I feel like the iPhone 16 still looks great. I think it's a very good phone, but I think the Galaxy S23 Ultra quite clearly is the one that I look at as probably being the overall better one, just the better one here for the most part. I feel like if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, it makes a lot more sense to go and buy something like the Galaxy S23 Ultra here from a camera perspective than something like an iPhone 16. So I think this in and of itself, once again, is another one of those minor things to keep in mind there as well. Now, on top of that, I think another thing to keep in mind here too is that between both, like I mentioned before, if you're looking at both these devices, the software longevity side is going to be a little different here because both are still going to be supported with software. This is not like an insane amount of problems here. With something like the iPhone 16 though, this is probably going to be the one that's going to be lasting for a longer period of time than the Galaxy S23 Ultra. So I feel like with the S23 Ultra, this is one of those phones that's going to be here for a long period of time. And I think that's a nice thing going on here. With the iPhone 16, it's probably going to be the longer lasting one here, like I mentioned before. So kind of keep that in mind. Once again, not the biggest deal in the world, but that is one other thing you're probably going to experience when it comes down to this device. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to the batteries, this is also another very big thing to keep in mind here with the Galaxy S23 Ultra. This phone is giving you a 5,000 mAh battery. The iPhone 16 is giving you a 3,561 mAh battery. So in my personal opinion, when it comes down to the battery life perspective, this is probably going to be another very big thing going on here for these types of devices because you're going to be getting a really long lasting phone, from a battery life perspective on the Galaxy S23 Ultra, although the Galaxy S20, the iPhone 16 is still going to be a phone that's going to be lasting for a long period of time as well. So performance wise, iPhone 16 is giving you the Apple A18 chipset inside of it with 8GB of RAM, where the Galaxy S23 Ultra is giving you that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset inside with 8 or 12GB of RAM. So once again, when it kind of comes down to it, if you're going to go through and pick up a phone that's going to be giving you a better experience, it might as well be something like a Galaxy S23 Ultra because this phone is giving you a very solid chipset. It's a fast phone. It's a very good looking phone too. And I feel like with that mixed in with the 120Hz display, kind of gives me the impression that it is probably going to be a better device here and there than something like the iPhone 16. Although I think the iPhone 16 is still giving you a very fast and a performance heavy phone. And like I said before, I think that's another really nice thing going on for something like the iPhone 16. The 16 is a very good looking phone. I think it's great. But I think with the Galaxy S23 Ultra, this is the one that I'd probably look at as being an overall better performing phone for the most part than something like the iPhone 16. Although it's pretty close, that's kind of how I see both these phones kind of holding up from that particular side as well. So overall, what I can probably tell you is that if you're able to go through and pick up something like a Galaxy S23 Ultra, it might still make a lot of sense to go and buy something like that type of device than buying something like than an iPhone 16. I think personally that's kind of what ends up happening here, and that might make more sense overall than something like a Galaxy S20, than something like an iPhone 16. If you want a more flagship phone, then definitely go for something like the Ultra. But I still look at something like the iPhone 16 as still being a very good phone. I love that phone so much. And I do think that's a very, very good device to pick up for the most part. But like I said, I think something like the S23 Ultra might be the better one for you if you want a more flagship phone. And that's kind of how I see both these devices kind of holding up from that particular perspective. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.